Good evening, everyone. It is your girl, Marcy Thomas. And in case you missed me last week, I took the night off because it was a holiday. So I am really excited to be back with you for a wonderful book that we're actually getting a sneak peek before it comes out tomorrow. So come on in the room and join us so that we can get ready to have this wonderful conversation with actually an author that if you were looking real closely at the photos and the video that just went, you can see that she's one of our previous guests, and that's Vanessa Riley. So as you're coming on in the room, if you don't mind, let us know if this is your first time joining us or where you're joining us from, or just shout out, say hello, just so we know who all is here. Once again, I'm Marcy. I am coming to you from outside of Atlanta, which my guest is also in the Atlanta area as well. So we are representing the Peach State today. And Brown Girl Collective actually has been around for 14 years as of last Thursday. So we are now 14 years old. Yay, happy birthday to Brown Girl Collective. And I still feel like even with 14 years in, we're still just beginning to be able to tell the stories of bold, brilliant, and beautiful Black women, both past and present. So tonight's story is going to be also in that same vein. So today's author that's with us is Vanessa Riley, who is a novelist who also holds a doctorate in mechanical engineering and a master's in industrial engineering and engineering management from Stanford University. She also earned a BS and MS in mechanical engineering from Penn State University, which as I'm reading all that, to me, I'm like, oh, that understands why she writes the way that she does, because she knows about being meticulous. She currently juggles mothering a teen, cooking for her military man husband, and speaking at women's and STEM events. She loves baking her Trinidadian grandma's cake recipes and collecting Irish crochet lace. You can find her writing from the comfort of her porch here in the Atlanta area with a cup of Earl Grey tea. And one last thing I do want to mention before I bring her on screen, she was also recently named the 2023 Georgia Author of the Year Awards literary fiction winner for Sister, Mother, Warrior, which was the book we discussed the last time that she was here. So welcome and congratulate Vanessa Riley. Yeah.
Hello, Marcy. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, and let's give you a round of applause. Yes, and you know what? I pulled my copy, so I got that one here too. I made sure that I did. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations on that award, and of course the book that will be in stores tomorrow. Yes. So how does it feel? How are you feeling?
You're always nervous. I don't care what number it is. And this is somewhere between 22 and 25.
Wow.
I'm not, you lose count, but you're still nervous every time because you want the book to be received well. You want everyone to get a copy. And you always know that people are still watching. Is this just a moment? Is this a fad? Are these Black storytellers, worth the hype that we are now getting in this particular genre? So, I'm always, I'm nervous, girl. I want y'all to love this book. I want y'all to love Queen Louise.
Oh, you will. We will. Everyone will. Because, number one, the book itself, the cover is just beautiful to start with. So that's one thing. That purple, that royal queen, can y'all see that? Let me see how close I can get that. Can y'all see that? That's beautiful just in and of itself. And, just the way that you write and the way that you tell stories, what's inside is equally as beautiful as what's on the outside. So yes, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, they did a great job.
They really did. They really did. And we see her again on the back. So yes, that's just a beautiful cover and a wonderful representation of a Black woman queen.
Yes. Very important. Queen.
Very important. A queen. Very important. So of course we mentioned Sister, Mother, Warrior, which you just won the award for. And really this story is kind of a continuation of that, so to speak. And we can get into a little bit of how that is true. But what is it that drew you to write about the women of Haiti?
Yeah. First of all, Haiti itself, the more I unpack and uncover, they're the MVPs of our history, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, because you will find the explorers, you will find the revolutionaries, you will find people leading in the arts and daring to live differently, all in Haiti. And when I was doing research for Sister Mother Warrior, which again is the two women who shaped the Haitian Revolution, you begin to collect names and find other women who are attached to Mary Claire or Grand Toya. And there was one woman, she's briefly there, Marie-Louise Christophe. She is the wife of the general, the second in command of Jean-Jacques Dessalines' forces. And she just seemed like a very interesting woman. And then I start reading more about her, and I find out she was a shopkeeper's daughter, and then she becomes the first and only queen of Haiti. I mean, to me, that's a meteoric rise from a shopkeeper's daughter to the queen of a nation. And then I want to know, well, what happened? Because the kingdom of Haiti was only 9 years. It ran exactly. We all know the Regency, which is from 1811 to 1820. This is 1811 to 1820, but it's a Black kingdom run by a Black king and a Black queen. And they strove for excellence for those 9 years. What happened to her after the kingdom went away? I went on a journey. I literally walked in her footsteps to feel her, to feel what it was like to leave from a Caribbean island to go where you and your husband have built the lasting things. You and your husband built the Citadel. You built the Palace of Sansui. Most of Le Cap or Cap Haitian is in tatters at this point. They're starting to rebuild it. But you go to Europe, and there are things that 200, 300, 500 years old when you're walking there. What does that feel like? And then to think back, is what my husband and I built, is it going to last this long? Or is it going to go the way of Le Cap did with the wars? So she was just, to me, a fascinating woman I had to know more about.
Absolutely. I mean, just to think that she did start out as, shopkeeper's daughter. that's wild. To queen.
But in a way, it also makes sense because her father, rarity at that time frame, a Black man. This is prior to the revolution. He owns a hotel in the fashionable part of Le Cap. The European tourists are coming in. And so she's able to see these European women, how they're styled, how her father has to accommodate them and the things. So she's getting an education of culture that's different than a lot of people during that time frame, especially a lot of Black women during that time frame. She's a free woman. She's not a day has ever been spent in enslavement. So her perspective is different, even different than her husband, who was enslaved, who gained his freedom because he fought in the American Revolution. So it's like, if there was ever meant to be a path to greatness, she and Henri are on these paths to greatness. And so it just fascinates. To me, she fascinated me.
Yes, it's definitely a fascinating story. And, I know you talked about the research process. We're going to get into some of the themes of the story. For those who don't normally watch, or this is your first time, we don't give away any spoilers because the book doesn't come out till tomorrow. So we're not going to spoil anything. However, we do want to give themes just so you can kind of know what to expect as you're reading the story. But just to think about it, this level of research. And in the story, you also include like some actual excerpts from newspapers and things like that to kind of help guide how you're writing the story or how you're putting different pieces together, because this is a work of historical fiction. So what was that process like, just to find these little obscure articles about someone that we really don't know a whole lot about?
From my engineering background, I'm a little bit of a Google/search expert. So I can figure out a key string and I will sit there for days going in. If I know a database is capable of pulling information, I will write a code. I will do the strings. I'll figure out how to get information. And when I started getting these pieces of her life, I was amazed because, modern day historians talk about the sorrowful queen,
Mm.
and they focus on just the tragedies. They focus on the loss of the kingdom, family members. And I'm not discounting. She did had a lot of grief. There was grief.
Yes.
And at moments, helplessness, and in moments where she doesn't know whether to turn left or right. I'm not discounting that. But as a Black woman, we don't necessarily dwell in the sorrow. We figure out a way to keep moving. And to me, anybody who did the things that she did, particularly in exile,
right,
didn't focus on the bad. She may have carried it like tourister luggage with her. But she focused on, how do I make sure my daughters are protected? How do I make these princesses remember their princesses throughout every stage of their lives? And so that was her focus. And I included these newspaper clippings so that you can see what the truth was.
Right.
In my opinion, she's the first media star. She's a Black woman that is everywhere she goes. There are newspaper announcements saying Madame Christophe and her daughters, Madame Christophe and their attendants, Madame Christophe going here, there, and everywhere. And when I started seeing all this, I was like, okay, y'all have this one thing. You're saying she's sorrowful and we should pity her and all these sorts of things. But I'm looking at what y'all wrote during the time frame when she lived, and you're hawking this woman. You are watching every step she makes because she is radiant. She is reigning in exile. And I wanted you guys to see it. So, because with historical fiction, sometimes you don't know what's fact, what's fiction. Right. I wanted you guys to see the foolishness I saw.
And that's really wonderful, because the last time, actually, when I was talking to the last author we had on about Magdalena Walker, that was a question that came up with Ruth Watson's book about, how do you know what's real and what's not? I mean, of course, there's some, poetic license, so to speak, but, just the more in depth that you can get in telling a story, of course, it's better, and the more details and the more information. So I love the fact that you were able to actually find articles to be able to kind of, mold the story in that way. But, once again, without giving away too much, we talk about the fact that she's in exile. We mentioned real briefly the fact that she, worked at her father's hotel. How did she get to the point of meeting Henri and even getting to starting this process?
Yes.
So just a little bit for those who might want to, how'd she go from this to that?
Yes. So Henri has his freedom. He gets to Saint-Domingue, and he works for her father. And from all reports, they couldn't keep them peoples apart. They met when they were 14. They kept them separate till 16. And then they're like, okay, fine. Go ahead and you can get married. He loved that woman. All intents and purposes, sometimes when you're doing research about kings, I don't care what color king, there are always these other side stories of other relationships I could not find. I found people trying to smear him with these things. I could never find a name or definitive. For all intents and purposes, Louise was his world. And as he rose, he took her with him. And so as he becomes the number 2 general, she is having the other generals come to their house for dinner. As he becomes the president of Haiti after Dessalines is assassinated, she is the first lady. She's referred to as Madam President. And she's trying to guide him. She's trying to help him because she's looking around at all the snares that are trying to stop him from achieving the things he wants to achieve. So it's a gradual rise. They have advisors, and Henri has a concept that France is going to come back. He knows this in his soul that France is coming back, and he's like, the only way that we're going to stop them is to do what we did during the revolution. We made friends with the enemies of France. At that moment in time, it is England, it is Russia, it is the United States. The United States is pretty much just they wrote them off because you got Jefferson up in there. He wasn't trying to help nobody.
Right.
So, but England and Russia are actually, they develop a kinship with Henri. They exchange paintings with Henri. That's the surviving paintings we have is because of these portraits that he sent of him and his son. And it's done in a way to show we are just like you. We are ruling this country. We are regal, just like you, and the styling. So he models a bit after the English courts, the European courts, the French courts, because he believes that if you see us as equals, then you don't mind partnering with us,
right?
And that you can help us forestall France. And he was somewhat successful. Russia and the Britain actually stopped France from coming back sooner. But as a person who served in multiple wars, his decline, his mental decline, the stress. I mean, he would get up in the middle of the night and go to the Citadel and actually lay the bricks on it's now the 8th wonder of the world. People still can't figure out how this thing was built.
Wow.
But it was this structure that looks like Noah's Ark coming out of the mountain. And he loaded up with guns and cannons. He was like, y'all come this way. I got something for you. Right. But that was his way of, this is how I'm going to protect these people that I am king of. And there's just so many different things that they were doing from an educational standpoint, from science standpoint, that were, one of the things I read, which just actually gave me chills, was this first generation of kids coming off the plantations are going to school and they're learning French and English. So you'd walk the hallways of the classrooms and you'd hear French on one side and English on the other, because he knew education is going to make the difference. So they worked as a team.
Yeah.
There was a deep love, but he was a man in distress. And as the weight of France making more rumblings coming along, some of the world community embracing them, some of them distancing themselves, he took it on his shoulders, and she could not save him.
Right.
And when the kingdom fell, she had to figure out what to do next, because this larger than life figure is now gone, and I have to protect the princesses. So she had to go into this new mode and reinvent herself in Europe.
Yes, it was one of the things, as I was reading, there are things that he was doing that she didn't agree with. Louise didn't agree with everything that he was doing. And I like the fact that, in the story, she's speaking up. I mean, of course, he's going to ultimately do what he wants to do anyway. But she was not just the little lady who sat by the side and let him do whatever and not have an opinion or a comment. I know there was something in there where she's like, yes, you may be the leader or the, in charge, but I'm coming to you as your wife. I need to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. And, and that really showed as you go throughout the book that she wasn't a person that was just going to sit back and let things happen to her. She was going to have a say and speak up and use her voice.
Yeah. One of the big contentions was, he had this belief that we need to be like the Europeans to be accepted. And she was like, wait a minute. If it wasn't for the African ways of leading the rebellion, of moving the troop movements, we wouldn't be free.
Right.
Why are we trying to go away from it? And the people see it. The people are like, whoa, wait a minute. We didn't do this. We did not do all this so you could be the king and lord over us and be just like them. Right. We broke away from just like them. I think one of his failures was not being able to communicate effectively to the people what he was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And Louise couldn't fill that gap. She tried, but she couldn't fill the gap. But that to me it's a debate. It's one we often hear now, right?
I'm thinking that
divorcing ourselves of African or there were points in times where people are ashamed of our lineage because they think of it as only enslavement. But we think of it only as enslavement because we don't know who Queen Louise was. We don't know the works of King Henri. This is why books of historical fiction are so important, because when you see what we have done, how we created out of nothing, and the legacy and the potential, I mean, you're going to look differently at the entire world. You're going to look differently at the past.
You definitely will. And that's why it's important for people like you to keep writing these books, because of course we know we live in a time where folks are trying to take history away from us. So, it may not be in the school textbooks, but, we have people like you who are continuing to write these works of historical fiction or even some nonfiction that, are open to the general public. So we can know these stories, because it is just so important. Because like what you just were saying about the whole thing of Black excellence, you talk about, it's one of the themes of Black excellence in a white world. And it's something that we still struggle with. Struggle with.
What does it mean? What does it mean? I can remember when going through school, and my mom, she made sure that we were very literate, that we read a lot, and some people thinking that is white behavior, right? Just because I can conjugate a verb. No, that means I studied. Okay. And my mama wouldn't accept nothing less when I got home, because she knew what we were capable of. But those struggles of advancement versus sacrifice, they're still here. We're still dealing with it. And we have to recognize that our history is important. Our future is important. And you cannot separate the two.
Cannot separate the two. So, of course, once things kind of go awry and, Louise and her daughters have to leave their homeland, then they embark on this whole new venture over in Europe, which is wild to think in the early 1800s that, a Black woman and her daughters were operating as royalty
yes.
in Europe, in England.
To me, this is the part that I got my own education on, because I had bought into what these historians were saying: the sorrowful queen, the poor queen, the isolated woman, right? But then, this is how God works. I start seeing these blue plaques show up in London. House of Madame Christophe and her daughters lived here. And it's in Mayfair. Now, Mayfair is like the Beverly Hills of London. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Wasn't it nice of these white folks just to sit here and buy this house and let this nice queen, and then all of a sudden in Hastings, another resort area, house of Madame Christophe. Now, I'm sorry.
Right.
But I know that people are good out there in the world. But you trying to tell me that y'all gonna put this queen up in Mayfair and in Hastings on your dime? Or is it more plausible that she somehow figured out how to recoup Henri's fortune and bought those herself? And then I found residences in Blackshire. I find her going to Florence and Austria and Rome and Pisa and Baden-Baden, all the royal spas. I find her going there because there's news clippings showing her go to these various. And you're trying to tell me she had no money and she just went there to all these and was the poor humble beggar to go to all these fabulously expensive places? No. That is a disservice to her memory. She made sure that she and her daughters were protected. She recouped her husband's fortune, and then she made those girls' lives feel like a princess every day they walked the earth, because she wanted them to remember who they were, who their dad made them into being. And she wanted the world to see, and she knew the world was watching, because they were waiting. Trust me, they were waiting, because the way the media coverage, they were waiting for scandals. They were looking for everything, because when people pretended to be a distant relative so they could get a piece of Henri's money, those made big front page papers. I included a couple in the thing, but there were a lot of scammers who pretended to be a cousin, a nephew, a brother, even Henri himself at certain points. The fortune hunters were after them. I mean, you don't see this kind of foolishness unless there's something they're going after. And so people were looking for her to fail. They were looking for the daughters to get embroiled in scandal, and they wanted that money because these women were rolling with money, which goes counter to what the modern day historians want you to believe.
Yeah, it definitely does. But as you're talking, I'm just thinking about England I'm thinking England specifically, has been a mess when it comes to that sort of thing, that the paparazzi, so to speak, and the people who have been following the royals or the people of a certain ilk for centuries. This isn't something that's new, where they want to, find out who's doing what. And the fact that she is a Black woman just adds more to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There are times where the present day historians will say she's isolated. I have found parties that she's gone to. I have found her seated in order of precedence, where kings are next to her, princes are on the other side. She's a queen. She's in the middle. Documented, things that didn't take a whole bunch of algorithmic searches to find. So it's like, why is the narrative such? Is it more dangerous to give this woman her agency and her power, or just to lump her into this box so that we, as Black women, as Black people, don't revere what she went through and survived? We'd rather you think you were nothing but enslaved people that got mercifully liberated than people who did for their own, who protected their own, who went after what they wanted and thrived.
That's true. And I mean, this is to her, from her perspective, but that goes across the board, really, if you think about it. They don't want to tell our stories of survival. They rather tell our stories of being victimized, or, being poor and downtrodden and on all of these things, or that we're not intelligent, or, things of that nature. So it falls in line why we haven't heard of her.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a shame. To me, it's just like, if it takes a little nerd engineer to come along to uncover these people, I accept it. I accept the challenge, because I'm going to bring you a very well documented, engaging story. I want you to feel like you're there.
Yes,
watching and prying eyes through the lens of what's happening.
And it does feel that way, as you're reading. And I know Mina says she's already purchased her copy, is going to get it, but get ready, because it's got 400 plus pages, but it's good. It's good reading. And, there are a lot of resources and things in it as well. So if you want to go further or learn more about some of the characters that maybe Vanessa doesn't have time to get as in depth with, there's resources that you can learn even more. But one of the other things that stood out to me is the fact that it was the women who survived ultimately.
Yes.
And that, and of course we know that oftentimes men are going into war and things of that nature, which can create challenges that a woman might not face. But I just found that powerful as well, that it was like, it's me and my daughters, I'm going to make sure we're good. There was a tragedy of losing, 2 sons, a husband, and all of that. But it's just really strong to see these strong female characters, which you always focus on, but you don't write men in a negative way either.
No, and it was, Henri is a special man. I don't think he's been given the credit that he's a visionary, a tortured visionary, but he's a visionary. And so in the parts of the book where we go and reflect, I give you moments where you see what he's trying to do. You see his heart, you see his passion, you even see his love for his wife. Because I wanted to give him a moment. It's Louise's book, but I wanted to give him a moment. So you can see what she saw. Why did she fall in love so hard with this man? And whatnot. And unfortunately, Black men, their stories are in the fabric of history. I don't think we see enough of them. I don't think we see the full gambit of humanity in their lens. And so this was an opportunity. I think I did with even Jean-Jacques, even though Jean-Jacques was a hot mess on different
he was.
He was a hot mess, right? I still give you those moments where, the before things happen, because, things happen in these lives and people change continually, are on a spectrum of change. And I want to show you those moments where he's he's 100% good. He's doing what he needs to do, but power does corrupt and those types of things. And with Henri, in my opinion, it's post-traumatic stress and this constant fear of France coming back and not being able to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he, after he dies and all the strong men have been executed by the lack of foresight of Boyer and the rest in the Republic, France comes back and Haiti capitulates because there's no strong men left to stand up to them. Mm-hmm. His nightmare comes true. It's I want people to walk away with the possibilities, mm-hmm. the possibilities of what Haiti could have been and still could be.
Right.
Because I believe women are going to be the key. Women are going to rise up because they've been rising up.
Right.
And they're going to pull that country together and it's going to be amazing.
Yes. And it's just something, that oftentimes we have to do, because we are, not to say that men don't care, because that's not true, but, just as the bearers of the next generations, we're the ones that bring them to being and wanting them to have something better and, standing for them and fighting for, not just our futures, our personal futures, but those of future generations. So I can trust and believe that happens. Along that line, we do have a question. Do we know if Queen Louise has any living descendants, and have you met them?
Haven't met them. There are descendants through Christophe, her husband's line.
Okay.
And there are some, it gets a little shaky because she's got a half sister who's Cecile Fatim, who was a phenomenal woman in her own right. And I was very happy to bring her into the book. And she got a kind of a scandalous sister. They have children. The documentation is really poor on trying to figure out where the nieces and nephews. I'm pretty sure there are some. I was unfortunately unable to meet with or see any of them. But the Christophe line has one of the presidents throughout history. I think in 45 is a direct descendant from Christophe. So it's like this lineage is interesting, right? Because of from Louise's side, you have Cecile Fatim, who was one of the catalysts who started the rebellion that led to the revolution going. That's her half sister. And then you have on his side future kings, or not future emperors / presidents of Haiti come through his bloodline. And that's also why there's some of the tragedy, because people wanted to make sure that bloodline didn't come back, but they weren't successful in eliminating all of that blood.
Yeah, that's something just to, of course, they're going to try to eliminate it because they know that there's strength and there's power there. So, but yes, as she's traveling throughout Europe, she gets to see a lot of things and, just experiences with her and her daughters, being educated and things of that nature. Just share a little bit about some of what her daughters experienced while living in Europe.
Yeah. So you have two daughters. One daughter has a terminal illness. It's some form of the present day people say it's some form of really bad asthma. All right. So they that's one of the reasons they went to the spas a lot, because that was supposed to be the breathing treatments and these sorts of things to help the younger daughter or the older daughter to live longer. So you have this mom that is struggling with the other daughter who wants to be in society. If they were back home in Haiti, there would be princes, because there were princes and there were earls and there were dukes that would be competing for her hand, or some general in her father's army would be competing for her hand. And now you're in Europe, and once again they're popular because the fallacy of Black women not being desirable is a fallacy.
It definitely is.
And then you got Black women with money. So put that in your head. Back over money, right? So I found evidence of foolery and I put it in the book. Because one daughter, there are romantic things that happen. She may find love, but she is struggling with identity. There is a book that I referenced that they had to have seen because of the people that they were connected with, called Eureka. And Eureka was written by Claire Dumas, a French woman who tried to imagine what it was like to be an enslaved woman that found out she was Black.
Oh, wow.
This was a blockbuster seller at the time. And it's crazy, right? It is completely crazy. And I could imagine a daughter reading this and understanding why she gets looked sometimes, or why she gets looked over. Is that what they're all thinking? They think that I hate myself. Do they think that I don't like my identity? Do they think I want to be like them? That I want to be white? I used that character to explore that, and for her to find herself in new and different ways, because you have one daughter you want to have as much life as possible.
Right.
So they're seeing the sights and whatnot. And then you have the other daughter who is almost afraid because now she thinks this is why she's being rejected, why she doesn't have the same opportunities as some of her white counterparts and whatnot. So it's a balance between the two daughters. And then you have Louise, who is still a beautiful woman. And once again, a beautiful woman with money.
Right.
So there might be a lovely prince that true to fact, that y'all gonna find out in there too.
Yes, but I had to laugh, kind of chuckle to myself, because early on in the book, they were referring to her as the old Black wife. I'm like, really?
Girl, when I saw that article, I had to put it in because they're like, why hasn't he gotten a new one?
Yes, I guess that would be the thing.
That was a European thing.
Yeah,
because they replaced them, or they excommunicated, or they put them in the nunnery. They got, they rotated them through, so they just assumed he was going to do the same thing. But he loved his wife. Henri loved his wife. And you will see the extent, and then once again that whole balance of mental instability and fixating on someone. And then what do you do if you're that someone that they're fixating on? If you think that my being more loving, more supportive is going to help you stay sane, am I going to deny you staying sane? So it's like you get a whole bunch of
that's a whole
interesting stuff.
There's a whole lot of interesting stuff here. But I really just love the way that, I'm going to say specifically for these last two books, because I got the other one sitting here too, System of the Warrior, that it's just the I know I hate to say strong Black woman, but I mean, it is what it is. Because I mean, whatever it is we think that we're dealing with here in our day and age, it was a lot different for them and the things that they had to contend with. But I do love the fact that you do focus on those types of women and those types of characters, because it's so important for us to see that.
Yeah, I want to say my mission is the power woman. I want to return the power women. These are our foremothers, and they have done so much, but their exploits are completely ignored or erased or belittled or even given to somebody else. And if I can find a way to bring them back to you and show you their power, I'm going to show it. I mean, like I tell everybody, the enslavement story is an important story because people have to understand the context. But to me, I want to tell the stories of people who survived and what happened on that other side. I want to show you people who were bigger than their own pain.
Right.
And move forward, or even those who were enslaved to their pain, the ones who struggled but yet still found those moments of joy. Those are the women and the men that I want to bring back to you, because we need to see that. We need to take a new sense of pride in our history and understand it. It is wider than we know. It is deeper than we have been allowed to hear about. And we can draw strength from all these various lives to push us forward till we can get to the level we need to be at.
Mm-hmm. One of the other things I was, as you're saying that, I just was also thinking about the fat Caribbean women as well. I love that you talk about, yes, because I know you are one.
You always wonder why you have certain backgrounds or something like this, and to me, this is God ordained. To find my roots, so to speak, to bring the women that I come from, the women and the men I come from, to bring them on this journey, and letting the world see full circle the power that they had, the way that they strove. And in even just clearing up fallacies, because enslavement in the United States is different than it was in the Caribbean. And the Caribbean, every island is different. Every local body politic is different. It's not just palm trees, hair braiders on the beaches, and some sand. There are pink sand, brown sand, black sand, white sands. Everywhere is so different. And if I could just take you back in the moment of time and show you the wealth that we come from, I want to do it. And the Caribbean is essential because it's the connector. It's the connector from all the world powers. Everything goes through the Caribbean. I don't care what that time frame, from 1750 to 1830, the Caribbean is your central hub. Some people call it South London, right? Because it's that big of a connector. And once again, you get people that want to erase this history and pretend it didn't happen, and then wonder why these countries are so poor.
Yeah, no, that's a thing. Well, we just had a comment here. The negativity of our pain that equates our strength and endurance.
Exactly. And it's
thank you,
and
Wanda.
I think it's Wanda, I love that. I want that. And I want people to paint us. It's like when you tell a story, unfortunately for us, there's an element of pain, because there's some, from anything from lack of acceptance to enslavement, there's something there, right? But I want to get us to the other side. I want us to show how we use that pain to move forward, how we live beyond that, because that helps us. If they survived that, and they were able to do this, then I can do all things. And I think we need to see that. And I think that negativity makes our young people not want to know our history. And they're falling into that trap because they have nothing to say, that pride to build them up. Their pride comes from what they have in their hands, and everything in our hands can fall away. But you can't change the past. The past is the past. We bring it with us in every footstep, everywhere we go. And if you can use the past to help you be uplifted, I think that's our support. Because that's why people that come from other places talk about their kings and their pridefulness and how they've conquered lands and all this sort of stuff. And they're so excited. And then when you see us, we're hiding, and we think it's all enslavement, and we don't want to talk about the past. And we missing our kings and our queens who've done so many wonderful, exciting things that could just move us forward.
And that's one of the things, even with Brown Girl Collective. Now, I'll admit, for those who've been following for a while, I had gotten away from it a little bit, sharing a lot of history, but it's coming back, y'all, because it's just so important to be able to do that, to look at some of the quote unquote hidden figures, like, who we're talking about this evening, as well as, Magdalena Walker, whoever it is, just to be able to bring these women into the forefront, because there are so many things that we don't know. Because
Marcy, that's not even your fault. because publishing for a while was only letting one story go through.
That's very true.
They were only letting the pain, I call it pain porn. How much pain can these people be in? And then you have a white savior somewhere in here who has a good feeling about something and fixes it and boom, right? That was a story. They wanted to see Roots 24/7 because they got the idea that that's what we all want to see.
Right.
So when you get these other stories of a Queen Louise or a Grand Toya or somebody else, you know, a Dorothy Kerman Thomas that comes on the scene, that's new and exciting. And then you guys reading those and asking for those stories, that opens doors for the Maggie Lita Walkers. It opens the doors for so many other stories that have nothing to do with the most painful experiences of our lives, or our forefathers' lives.
Well, I'm going to ask you kind of a tricky question, and you can answer if you choose to or not. How do you, I know that publishing overall has gotten better in terms of telling these stories, because we wouldn't have had these two wonderful books in the last couple of years if that was not the case. But do you feel that with some of the changes that are happening now, do you feel that things are going to go backwards, or you think we're going to continue to go forward? Is this something that we as readers and lovers of good literature need to really double down on in terms of support?
I think you need to double down. I think everything is at risk. Anytime we take our eyes off the prize, that's when people are able to come in and take things away. There are lots of people who want this just to be a moment, that it was a genuflex from George Floyd. They think that everybody did a with George Floyd. Now we're gonna let some nicer stories in, and now they want to flinch back. Every time you guys show up and you buy books, that makes a difference. And everybody's watching. They're counting the numbers. So go out, not just buy my books, but buy these books that are telling these different types of stories that make you excited, because that is going to keep those doors open. Nobody stops things that are profitable.
Right.
Nobody stops things that aren't making the numbers in the books. So if you buy these books, the doors are going to stay open. It's really back to the readers, and they're listening like they haven't listened in a very long time. They're listening to readers, and readers are saying, these are the kind of stories we want. But readers got to remember that's what they told them and go out and buy them.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's just so true. Because I, a little earlier this evening, something popped up on my phone talking about like all the TV shows that are being canceled. You know, all of the Black people who work in the entertainment industry and some of the quote unquote mainstream places are being let go now that folks are trying to do away with diversity and things of that nature. And we know when something happens in one place, it does have a tendency to trickle into other spaces as well. So that's why I brought that up. Because
no, you're right. I've seen some DEI things. I mean, if it's so quick, you got to ask yourself, if it's so quick to get rid of these positions, were they already on the chopping block anyway? Were they not given the power that they needed to do things, and it was just a paper title? And so, because it's one thing to get the job, and then they don't give you the resources to do anything with the job. They hamstring you every different business, so you cannot make a difference. So then they can say, we tried, and there's no difference. So it was just too quick, right?
Right.
So it's like an excuse that we can say, hey, well, no, that was they were all slated to go, which is a shame, because the capacity of our storytelling is just not, it's just being tapped. We got so much that we want to, that can happen, but it's your support. And then, we also have to be selective. If we know something is not supporting us and our identity, then maybe we don't need to watch it. Maybe we need to vote with our purses and our eyeballs and our clicks to something different, right? Because once again, they are watching. Right. And if we show them what we want, they will listen.
Right. Right, that's so powerful and so true, and that is one of the advantages of being in this day and age, because we can create our own platforms and different things of that nature. So that does help, but well, I don't want to get on that soapbox, but sometimes people do go in a different direction because they feel that's where the big money is, or in some ways it goes back to what we were talking about in the book, Black excellence in a white world. We feel like if somehow we can be accepted in other places, that somehow, it's better for us. That's not necessarily always.
Yeah. I do not criticize anybody's hustle, because everybody's hustle is different, and somebody's got to be that first, right? So it's like somebody's got to be the first to get in there, but if you get in there, you make a difference.
Right.
You don't just I'm good. You gotta make a difference. So it's if you've chosen to be the guinea pig, you make a difference. And so because I remember when my first Regency romance made it into stores, which was A Duke, the Lady, and a Baby. We're talking about it came out in the middle of the pandemic. I was like, oh no, I done messed it up for everybody because it's coming out in the pandemic. Ain't nobody gonna see it. Y'all showed out. That book has been translated in Romanian, Portuguese. You write a good book, doors open. Like people word of mouth have to talk about it. It's gotta travel. It's gotta do what it needs to do. And so it is a conscious thing. Like when I'm writing these books, I write them so that the doors don't get shut behind me. So I make sure that they're as researched as possible, that they are executed, that the story is tight, because I want these doors open, and I'm not going to be the one to close them because that Vanessa Riley did this and it, X, Y, and Z. No.
Well, you are a pro at what you do. So no, I don't see that happening. And whenever you come out with something, everybody's really excited to see the work that you do, because it is, like I said at the top, and you reiterated, because of your background as an engineer, you are used to being very meticulous about certain things, and it just shows up as you are writing and going through the things that you have to do to put forth a work that even though it might be fiction, is written in such a way that you get so much depth and so much truth and real history in it, that it stands as a great piece of literature. So
thank you.
That's just something that you do, and you do supremely well. So y'all know, I know that this is one book for you this year, Queen of Exiles, and of course, this is first and foremost, because it comes out tomorrow. That's your cover again, this beautiful purple cover. Well, before I ask my next question, there is something going on now for those who choose to order this book from an independent bookstore, because we need to support them as much as we can as well. Tell them a little bit about the current promotion that you have going.
Yeah, so we there's a gorgeous 8x10 print of Queen Louise, and it's just her on it's got a beautiful gold kind of frame on it. If you go to https://bit.ly/VR deal, and VR and D is capital, everything else is lowercase.
Let me see if I can get it in here for you. Hold on.
See if you can get it in there.
Yeah, but while you're just tell them, so it's an 8x10 and they're able to order.
It's a gorgeous 8x10, and that page will show you the 29 indies who have joined in this. If you order from any one of them, they will be able to send you one of these gorgeous prints.
Okay.
And it's my way, because they have indie bookstores have a hard way to go because of the discounts that the bigger name stores. Now, if you can't get to any of these indies, you go on to Barnes and Noble. I ain't mad at you. Or Books A Million. Ain't mad at you. Ain't even mad at the little Amazon.
Right.
Buy that book.
Absolutely.
But if you can support an indie bookstore, or even you go to your local indie bookstore and tell them, hey, why aren't you carrying that Vanessa Riley? I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I found another link, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it up just so you all can get it. This one actually goes to your website, so
Excellent.
that'll give them a chance to go there. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was important because it is such a beautiful cover that people may want to see it.
Yep, that's the full link. That's perfect.
That's the full link, y'all, because I didn't catch all that. My fingers only moved but so fast.
I know. I was like that. Like I started. I was like, this is a bad idea. But I was in there and I was like, oh, this is a bad idea.
Yes, but I just wanted to make sure.
She got the link right there. That's the link.
Yeah, that's the one. And all of the different bookstores where you can get that and be able to access the 8x10 beautiful photograph is available. Also, the book is going to be out in Audible, on audio form.
Yes, Robin Miles is our she's good.
Mm-hmm.
She's good. She's amazing. So it's exciting, guys. And it comes out. We are a couple hours away.
Yes, just a couple hours away. So as I was getting ready to say before, I wanted to give those two announcements just so people would be aware. This is not the only book that you'll be releasing this year. You also have something coming out in the fall in your mystery series. So tell us a little bit about that for those who may have read the first.
Yes. So for those who've read Murder in Westminster, we've got coming out in the fall, Murder in Drury Lane. So Lady Worthing is back. And the murders are all centered around Drury Lane. And kind of the theme of this book is no good deed goes unpunished. Somebody mysteriously gets killed in Drury Lane. Lady Worthing and her associates are trying to figure it out. But one of the suspects might be a duke in Parliament who's the key vote for abolition. Mm-hmm. So if she brings him down, the abolition bill will falter. And she can stop basically she can keep being right in proving who did this murder could cost the abolition movement. What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
So get ready for that one as well. But of course, we're going to get Queen of Exiles. We're going to blow that one up first. Yeah. We're going to definitely do that first, but just bear in mind that the next Lady Worthing novel is coming out later on this year as well for those who are lovers of mystery. So, well, I know that you are about 3 hours away from the official,
don't know, guys. Y'all just don't know.
Feel good about that. So, Vanessa, I am going, I'm sorry.
Anybody in the area, tomorrow is launch day at Foxtails. So come on out. I got cookies made.
All right.
Yes.
That's in the Atlanta area at you said Foxtails?
Foxtails out there in Woodstocks.
At what time?
6:30. Yeah.
6:30? Okay. 6:30. So anybody in the ATL area, if you're available to go out around 6:30, and that is going to be on 7-Eleven. For those who might watch this later, you'll be like, oh, tomorrow. Like, no, 7-Eleven.
Eastern Standard Time. Yep, that's 6:30.
Right.
I just checked. 6:30.
Yeah, don't show up now looking for Vanessa because she won't be there. But the book will be, even if she is not. The book will be. So are there any other like digital or virtual events or things like that?
A lot of events. So we're actually going to Aiken, South Carolina on Thursday. You go to my website, you go to events page, it's got them all there. I'll be in Columbus for the Columbus Book Festival this weekend. If you're in the Greenville area, I will be at M. Judson's Books. We're doing a drinks over books. They're making a signature cocktail just for Queen of Exiles.
All right now. Will it be purple?
It could be purple. It could be something with limoncello in it.
Okay.
Or it could be a Chianti. I don't know.
You don't know. They haven't told you yet. We have a question about Houston. Will you be in Houston?
I was in Houston last year. But go to Kindred Stories. Kindred Stories they're one of my special indie bookstores. They've got the 8x10s. Okay. But we don't know what the rest of this year. Right now, I think we're only booked through September, and then they're starting in 2024. I have no idea.
All right.
Check my website out. I have no idea.
You're going to show up and show out. That's all that matters.
Exactly.
And I do have to say this, and not just because this is my second time talking to Vanessa in this platform. I've actually met her in person. So it's like to see her in person is a whole nother experience. I think it's been a couple times actually that we've actually met and seen each other in person at a couple of events here in Atlanta. I'm going to see you one at the end of this month as well.
So, yeah. Another one.
Yeah. Next time we're going to sit down and have a little cocktail. So.
Exactly.
So yes,
I think we deserve it.
Yes. So that's one thing. Everyone, I do this because for the love of books, for the love of writers, but then, it's not just something I come on here and do. Whenever it's possible for me to support people, with local tours or, events and stuff like that, I try to do it as well, because all of that's important too. Because if folks would say, oh, they're buying their books and they're showing up to their events, that's a way to support people in a multitude of ways.
And you want them to ask you back. So it's
right.
Always good.
That part. Because when I'm talking about something at the end of this year, I'm gonna talk to the person running that and be like, hey, Vanessa, bring Vanessa back.
She got some more books.
Yeah, she got some more books now. She got plenty of books for you. So Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been such a pleasure, Vanessa, as always.
Thank you for having me on Book Release Eve.
Book Release Eve. So I feel honored because I get you before some of the other people start getting you.
You get fresh, right?
I get fresh. Yes, ma'am. So if you could just hold on for 1 second so I can say a proper goodbye to you, but just hold on 1 second. But everybody wave. She can't see you, but wave at Vanessa. And we'll see you again real soon. So hold on just 1 second, Vanessa. All right, everyone. That was such a pleasure. I always love having an opportunity to speak with Ms. Riley because she does such an excellent job, just not only in the stories that she tells, but also the way she shares about her work and the passion that she has for said work. So as we've said multiple times, please go ahead and grab a copy of Queen of Exiles. I know that you're going to love it. And, look for her on tour and all of the different places that she's going to be in the upcoming months ahead. And, just continue to tune in here in this space so that you can know all of what's going on and who some of the great Black women authors are that are out here that are worthy of our support. So thanks again for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, take care and have a great time. Bye-bye.